Hari bolo. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
All right. So before we start, we'll first do the Mangalacharan and then we'll get back to what we were doing. Okay. So let's start. Mangalacharan is a set of prayers that we recite every time, seeking blessings of Guru and Vaishnavas and invoking auspiciousness. So let's start. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurue Namah Shri Chaitanya Mahavishnu Sthapitam Bhutale Swayam Rupakadaram Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Anshkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. All right. So we've been discussing the things that we should not be doing. We've always told the things that we should be doing. This series that we are doing is about the things that we should not be doing. We already covered. You can see the 10 heads of Ravana. They represent these 10 things, and we've already done Moha and Kam. Today we are going to do Krodha. So it's Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Mad, Matsarya, Abhav, Matra, Ahankar, Swarth, and Durmati. So we are now today going to take Krodha. Let's go to the next slide for anger. Now, as you all know that we are doing, how we are doing is we're trying to see the positive and the negative sides of it, how when things get into Krishna consciousness, all these vices can also be used in that regard. So we're trying to do stories, different stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, and from that we are trying to understand how harmful these vices are, and how when used in the service of the Lord, they have a positive impact. So anger, as you know, it is something which is very commonly faced by us. As children, we hear from our parents, our teachers, they do get upset with us. Now the degree of anger is going to vary. Anger doesn't have to be really violent, but there are different ways the anger is expressed. But yes, the anger, when not used in the service of the Lord, is totally harmful. There is no positive side to it. It doesn't do anything good. But we are going to understand, for now, to begin with, how this anger was used positively and how it should be used positively. So let's see. So this first pastime is that of Jagai and Madhai. Kindly please mute yourselves. Jagai and Madhai. So this is a pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is about Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. So when Mahaprabhu asked Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur to go around and spread Krishna consciousness and be the whole and soul deliverer of this prema to everybody, Haridas Thakur and Nityanand Prabhu, they were extremely generous when it came to giving this love of Godhead, this prema, Krishna prema, to everyone. So they did not discriminate, and Nityananda Prabhu, as we know, is the Adi Guru, he's the original spiritual master, the most merciful. So he went one step even ahead when he tried to give this love of Godhead to Jagai and Madhai. Now, who were Jagai and Madhai? Jagai and Madhai were basically born in a Brahmana family but they had no qualification of a Brahmana. So though they were born in the family of a Brahmanas, their activities were all that of any miscreant or Shudra. There was no act which was not bad act, that was not performed by them. They in fact used to look for all the bad things that, can you please close the door, all the bad things that they had not done so that they could do, that's how so-called adventurous in terms of doing bad activities they were. So once it so happened that they were, as usual, doing the bad stuff in terms of they were enjoying liquor and everything, and Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, they were going, giving the love of Godhead to everybody. And when they saw these two miscreants, on being asked who they were, when they understood what all sinful activities they had done, Nityanand Prabhu became extremely compassionate towards them. And even though that they were warned by other people not to go anywhere near them, out of compassion and mercy and pity on them, Nityanand Prabhu decided to go and preach them. Now, when he tried to do this, both Jagai and Madai, coming from a very sinful background, were not ready to listen to any of such pure, pious activities to be done. They got really agitated because they thought that Nityanand Prabhu was disturbing their life and they didn't want to change their life. And so Madhai tried to hit Nityanand Prabhu with, now imagine, in those days, they were mostly utensils made of clay pots. So they were carrying their liquor also, and he just struck that on the head of Nityananda Prabhu, and it actually started bleeding. When the news reached Mahaprabhu that Nityananda Prabhu was hurt, he immediately came down and he was so upset. So this is where the anger part comes. He was very, very upset with Jagai and Madhai, and he called out for his Sudarshan Chakra and he wanted to behead them. Nityanand Prabhu, though he was bleeding, with his compassion towards them, and he reminded Mahaprabhu that the whole and sole purpose of Mahaprabhu's appearance as Mahaprabhu was not to kill the sinner, but to kill the sin. So he asked them to forgive them and give them and show them their mercy. So now, obviously Mahaprabhu never says no to Nityanand Prabhu, and that's what happened. And Mahaprabhu bestowed mercy upon them once they fell at the feet of Mahaprabhu, seeking forgiveness both from Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu. Now here, the anger which was used by Mahaprabhu was, Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna himself, and he is setting an example of how to be a nice devotee. So he appears as a devotee of himself, of the Lord himself. And so here basically he's acting as a devotee, but he's the Supreme Lord. Why did he get angry? Because Nityanand Prabhu is none other than the Adi Guru, as we discussed. He's the original spiritual master. He's Lord Balram. So the anger that was displayed by Mahaprabhu was for the blasphemy and mistreatment of Nityanand Prabhu, who is Lord Balram himself, who is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here the anger was for two purposes. One, to set them straight, in the sense, as Nityanand Prabhu reminded him that he was not supposed to kill them. So he did forgive them. He did show his anger, but he did not harm them. In fact, he killed their sinful mentality. And also because Nityanand Prabhu was blasphemed, who's none other than the Adi Guru, the original spiritual master. So when the anger is used in glorification of the Lord or for the protection of the blasphemy of the Lord. So, you're not supposed to hear ill things. So, who is Krishna? Basically, Krishna is our beloved Lord. Now, if you love somebody, would you like to hear anything bad about them? No. So similarly, Krishna being our beloved Lord, we should not hear any blasphemy about him. Or there are many miscreants in Kali Yuga especially, who completely deny the presence of the Lord and say all wrong things about the Lord. If we are in such a situation, we should just walk away, because it really depends. If you can argue back, if you have argue in the sense in terms of defending, not for the heck of it. If you have the references to the Shastras, and if you are confident enough that you can, make them quiet by your, by your scriptural knowledge, then so be it. Yes, that's the way to go. We should not be hearing blasphemy. But if we cannot, then we should literally walk away from that place. So this is exactly what Mahaprabhu was doing, and Mahaprabhu was very, very upset. But after Nityanand Prabhu reminded him of his purpose, then he gave them the knowledge, and that's how they were transformed. So we can move on to the next slide, please. Now, anger cannot be, you cannot just not be angry, okay? It can be controlled. Everybody has anger in them, as we discussed, but it can be controlled. Now, it was only anger. It was because of anger that Hanuman was able to set the entire Lanka on fire. Now, this was, if you Sone ki Lanka it was called. So it was made of gold, that opulent, that rich. Everything was so beautiful about that place. But who was residing there? Ravana. What was he trying to do? He was trying to take Mother Sita away from Lord Ram. Who is Mother Sita? Mother Sita is the energy of the Lord. So when all this was happening, Hanuman was very upset. In fact, if you may have a question that if Hanuman was that strong, that alone he could set the entire Lanka to fire, then why did he not take Mother Sita with him? He actually did propose this. He did ask Mother Sita. He did tell her that if you want, I can take you back to Lord Ram. But again, who is Mother Sita? The Shakti of the Lord. Lord is very compassionate, and so is the energy of the Lord. So Mother Sita told Hanuman that you will take me away from here. That is fine. But what about the other captivates? What about them? Who are the hostages that that Ravana had? Who is going to deliver them? Who's going to help them? So I want my worshipable Lord Ram to come and not only free me from this place, but all the other innocent souls who were captured by Ravana there in Lanka. So obviously, Hanuman is the pure devotee of the Lord, and he was not at all happy by what Ravana was doing. So how did he express his anger when he was told by Mother Sita to go and call Lord Ram? So what he did was he set the entire Lanka to fire. So if you think about it, if you set something to fire, if the whole damage is done, then you won't come in good books. Nobody's going to be happy with you. But because he did it for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's actually worshipped as a greatest devotee of the Lord. So this is one thing that we learn from this story, that the anger can be used in the service of the Lord. And when used in the service of the Lord, it's not bad. So we can move on to the next slide, please. All right. So now, can you please close the door? Okay, so now this pastime has both aspects, um, positive and negative. What is this pastime about? This pastime is about Daksh Prajapati and Lord Shiva and Mother Sati. Who is Mother Sati? Mother Sati is the wife of Lord Shiva. So it so happened that, and who is Daksh Prajapati? Daksh Prajapati is one of the sons of Brahma. He is given the charge of, so he's the Prajapati, the progenitor of the species. So he, once upon a time, it so happened that he was performing, and he was a king. Okay, so he was performing sacrifices, fire, different types of fire yagyas he would do for this thing. And once it so happened that Mother Sati wanted to uh, marry Lord Shiva, but Daksh Prajapati to begin with. So Mother Sati was the daughter of Daksh Prajapati. Daksh Prajapati had 13 daughters, one of them was Sati. She wanted to marry Lord Shiva, but Daksh Prajapati did not approve of that for the simple reason that, he didn't know, or probably he didn't want to understand the glories of Lord Shiva, as he went literally by the appearance of Lord Shiva. And he thought that, Lord Shiva, he doesn't, in today's time, how it would be. The parents are going to look for a suitable match for a girl who has a decent job, who can afford the daughter and can live, the daughter can live happily with him, has a decent house, everything. Now, what does Lord Shiva, where does he live? Kailash, which is a mountain. They don't have a house or anything there. In fact, there was a time when Mother's Parvati was, asking for a house, and Lord Shiva, um, Lord Shiva is, he is so great. He is such a great devotee. We know Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He has all these mystic powers, and he's always absorbed in meditation and everything. And in the blink of the eye, he built a whole big castle for Mother Parvati. Now, so obviously, the way we have housewarming, so did they. They, before moving into the house, this was all in Kailash, that's where he built this. So great mansion and everything. Now they had the fire, I mean the Graha Pravesh, the housewarming. And the Brahmanas who came and did the Graha Pravesh, the housewarming sacrifice, they were so amazed by the beauty of that house that, after the sacrifice, you're supposed to give some dakshina to the Brahmanas. So Lord Shiva asked, what could he give to those Brahmanas? And guess what? The Brahmanas said, how about this house? So, and Lord Shiva gave. So this is the kind of detachment he had. He was not at all attached to anything. So he said, okay, so be it. The house was theirs. The Brahmanas, again, they were back in Kailash without any house. So from a perspective groom, that in mundane materialistic world also, that a parent is going to look for, he didn't have those qualifications. He was literally, he's always with a deer skin around him. He has snakes around his neck. He doesn't have a house. He just lives in Kailash Parvat. And obviously he has ashes, rubbed all over his body. This was not at all appealing to Daksh Prajapati, but Sati Mata wanted to marry Lord Shiva only. So Lord Brahma intervened, and he convinced Daksh Prajapati to give the hand of her daughter in marriage to Lord Shiva, and he did so. So he kind of didn't have any pleasant relationship or memories with Lord Shiva. So anyway, they were living in the respective homes. So once there was this huge sacrifice that was being done by Daksh Prajapati. Daksh Prajapati was very royal, very regal. So when he entered the sacrificial arena, everybody stood up, bowed, to him, other than Lord Brahma and uh, Lord Shiva. Why Lord Brahma? Because Lord Brahma happens to be the father of Daksh Prajapati. So when a son comes to the house, the son greets the father. The father doesn't get up. Out of love, he will, but not out of respect. But here in the assembly, this whole thing was going on out of respect. They were trying to give that respect to Daksh Prajapati. But anyways, so he didn't get up. Lord Brahman, which was fine. But then Lord Shiva also did not get up. And why did Lord Shiva not get up? Because Lord Shiva is always absorbed in meditating upon the Supreme Personality of God. He didn't even notice that Daksh Prajapati entered. He was absorbed in his meditation. But Daksh Prajapati took it as a great offense. He was so upset. He was so upset because, for the simple reason, he was obviously, he had that pride. He was high headed. And at the same time, he happened to be the father in law of Lord Shiva. Now, in terms of position, Lord Shiva happens to be lower because he's the son-in-law of Daksh Prajapati. But in terms of devotion and intelligence and everything else, obviously, Lord Shiva is greater. Daksh Prajapati was not ready to accept that. He was just seeing the relationship and he was like, he's my son-in-law. And I entered the arena and he didn't even get up. Without thinking, he started blaspheming Lord Shiva big time. He said, I didn't even want my daughter to get married to this nomad. He has no place to live. He has snakes around him. He's always in the deer skin. He has ashes all over his body. And just look at his audacity. I enter the arena and he doesn't even want to get up and pay respect. So what happened was Daksh Prajapati, out of his anger, okay, this was his anger. This anger was what led to what is we are going to hear now in a few minutes. So Daksh Prajapati got very, very upset, very, very angry, and he cursed Lord Shiva. Now imagine cursing Lord Shiva, but then that's what he did. What did he curse? He said that you will not get the share of any sacrifice performed henceforth. Now, normally what happens is when you're performing the sacrifice, a fire sacrifice, a yagya or whatever, the oblations are offered to all the demigods. Okay, so Lord Shiva also has his share, and that's how these demigods, they sustain themselves. But here, after being cursed by Daksh Prajapati, now when he cursed, when Daksh Prajapati cursed Lord Shiva like this, Nandeshwar, who is the associate of Lord Shiva, got really, really upset. He in turn cursed that may all these Brahmanas, so they were just cursing each other back and forth. And when Daksh Prajapati, he said, may you never, so Nandeshwar, he said that you will never understand the transcendental knowledge, all the Brahmanas, you pretend to be Brahmanas, but you have no knowledge and stuff like that. And then Brigupati, who is the spiritual master of the demigods, he was upset on Nandeshwar cursing like this. So back and forth, this curse was going on. And this really, really upset Lord Shiva. He just got up. He was quiet. He didn't say a word. He got up and he walked out of the arena. Okay, so then this pastime, this episode happened, and everybody from there on, Lord Shiva was not given the share in the oblations. Now it so happened one time that again, this Daksh Prajapati, he was having another sacrifice. he was very upset with these words of Lord Shiva was very, very upset with these words, and he just, he just walked out. Now, one time it so happened that he was again, at that time, Lord Brahma didn't say anything. Okay, so Lord Brahma, because he kept quiet, so Daksh Prajapati, he got, he didn't, he repeated, basically. He repeated the same thing, in the sense he again had a fire sacrifice. And this time, what he did was not fire, it was a huge yagya that he had. And he didn't feel the need to invite Lord Shiva. Now, he didn't feel the need to invite Lord Shiva, but everybody else was invited. Now, Kailash it's a parvat, it's an open thing. And when these demigods, they were going in this celestial plane to the sacrificial arena, Mother Sati saw this. When she saw this, she was not happy. Why? Because she started missing her family, and she asked these demigoddesses who were so very well dressed that where were they going, and they said that Daksh Prajapati, he's doing a big yagya, and we all are going there to be a part of it. So she went straight up to Lord Shiva, and she said, "My dear Lord, there's a sacrifice that is being done by your father-in-law, and I wish to attend that with you. I want to dress up like the other demigoddesses in beautiful clothes and ornaments given to me by my father, and go and be a part of this yagya, so I can meet my family. My mother will be there, her sisters will be there, my sisters will be there, and this is how I can get some association of my family members. Can we please go?" Lord Shiva patiently heard to all that Mother Sati had to say, and he said, after she finished, she said, "My dear wife, even though you are the daughter of Daksh Prajapati, he has not invited you. That means he doesn't want you." So Mother Sati said that, to a father's place, to a friend's place, or to a spiritual master's place, we can go uninvited. It is fine. Can we go? She was really eager to go. Then Lord Shiva again tried to explain to her that, yes, you can go to a friend's place or a father's place, but if you're not welcome, so if say you have a friend, a very close friend of yours, he can come and go to your house in and out whenever he wants to. You are not going to object. But if the friend comes and is not treated well because you are busy, or you're not there, or you have some differences with that person, so the person is not welcome, then even though the person may end up staying at your house, but he won't get any positive vibes, and that is not good. That's what Lord Shiva was trying to explain, that yes, you can go to your friend's place unannounced, but not to a person's place where you're not welcome. But Mother Sati at that particular point of time was totally absorbed in the fact, dreaming that she just wanted to see her family, her mother, her sisters, her aunts, and everybody, and she was very desperate. It's like, with people like us, we live in America now, but originally we are from India. So whenever there is a talk about going back to India to see the family, we are so excited. We wait all year round for the summer vacation or the winter vacation or spring break, anything, any yatra, any, if we know that some sannyasi is going to take us for yatra, if we can go, or Kartik, Govardhan Parikrama, anything, whatever takes us back to our hometown, we are super duper excited. We want to go. We want to make the most of it because we have that kind of attachment to that place and the people around. That's what Mother Sati was feeling. So Lord Shiva again told her that, no, if you're not invited, then it's not nice to go unannounced. Otherwise, if you have friendly relationships, it is okay. Even though you are his daughter, but you being my wife, he is not going to like it because he doesn't have any regards for Lord. He didn't have any regards for Lord Shiva. Mother Sati, on the other hand, was thinking that what is this? Why am I being forbidden to visit my own family? So the previous episode that happened in terms of where Daksh Prajapati was present and Lord Shiva did not get up to receive him, and that's what really angered him. This whole episode, Lord Shiva had not told Mother Sati, so Mother Sati was not aware of the differences between the two. So she was just thinking that what is this? I cannot even go and see my family members. Why is he asking me not to go? So Lord Shiva had already told her that I leave it up to you. If you want to go, you can go, but I'm not coming. So she decides to go against his wishes, and she um, goes to see, decides to go to see Daksh Prajapati and her family. Now, when she was ready to go, he was busy meditating Lord Shiva, as usual. But the followers of Lord Shiva saw that she was going alone, and so they followed her. They accompanied her. Now, when they reached the place where this yagya was to take place, her mother and her sisters and her aunts welcomed her with open heart. They were so happy to see her. They were, welcoming her. But at the same time, she was observing this that Daksh Prajapati saw her and chose to ignore her. He didn't say a word. This really hurt her. Then, when she moved further down the arena, she saw that there were places to be seated, for everybody. But Lord Shiva, there was no asana for Lord Shiva. That means there was no share of oblations for Lord Shiva. She got really upset. And then after that, again, when she saw that Daksh Prajapati did not even, not even for a second did he acknowledge her presence, forget about asking about her well-being. And then she saw that there was no asan for Lord Shiva. She was very, very upset. And then she goes up front to her father, Daksh Prajapati, and confronts him and tells him that you are behaving like this for no fault of my husband. He is a greatest Vaishnav. And in that anger, she said, now when I go back and he calls me Dakshayani, it is going to remind me of you, because Dakshayani means one who comes from Daksha. So because my body comes from you, I will be totally ashamed because you are not respecting my husband, who is not an ordinary husband, but Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he is the greatest Vaishnav. I cannot accept this blasphemy. I cannot tolerate this. And out of anger, she said, I cannot do anything to you. Normally, it is written that if, as we were discussing earlier, that if somebody blasphemes your beloved Lord, you are supposed to defend and convince them that they are wrong. In fact, Shastras even say that you're supposed to kill them. But she could not do that because that was her father. So she said, in that regard, I am going to give up my body because I am not happy with the fact that my body comes from you when you have no respect for the greatest Vaishnav in the world. So thinking like that, saying like that, she went and sat in an asan and meditated upon the fire within the body and self-immolated herself. Seeing this, the followers of Lord Shiva were very, very angry, very, very upset, and they started destroying the sacrificial arena. They were really, really upset. The news reached Lord Shiva that this has happened. So Lord Shiva, at that very moment, he was angry, way too angry. So he pulled a hair out of his scalp and he threw it on the ground and created a black demon called Veerbhadra and told him that since you are coming from my body, you're my son, and I order you go and kill Daksh Prajapati and his associates and destroy the sacrifice. Veerbhadra went and he did exactly what what the instructions were given to him. He went there, he destroyed everything, he beheaded Daksh Prajapati. And when the news reached, so all these demons, there was so much destruction going on. And so all the demigods who were present there, they got really fearful and they went up to Lord Brahma. And when they went to Lord Brahma, they told Lord Brahma what had happened. And they said that this is too much, there's too much of violence going on, and can you please come and stop it? So Lord Brahma said, actually, now the question may be, how come Lord Brahma was not present? So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, we know the three, right? So Mahesh is Lord Shiva. Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu already knew what is going to happen in this sacrifice, and they didn't want to be a part of it because obviously Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava and they didn't want to be a part of blasphemy of the Lord, and so they chose not to come. Okay, so now Brahma told them that you need to pacify Lord Shiva. Now these demigods said that Lord Shiva is not going to listen to us. You have to accompany us. You have to talk on our behalf. We understand what has happened is not right, but he's really, really angry. So Lord Brahma said, okay, fine. So when they went there, Lord Brahma pacified Lord Shiva with very nice words. And then Lord Shiva, he's like, otherwise also Lord Shiva, he's very easy to please. He's Ashutosh. That is why he's called Ashutosh. So he was pacified. And then when he asked Lord Brahma that what am I supposed to do, Lord Brahma said, can you go and bring Daksh Prajapati back to life? Now, what happened when Veerbhadra was destroying everything and when he had beheaded Daksh Prajapati, so the head he put in the sacrifice, the fire sacrifice, the yajna. So Lord Shiva knew this. So Lord Shiva said that this is not possible because his head has been burnt in the fire sacrifice. So I cannot put the same head back, but I can put the head of the animal that was supposed to be used in the fire sacrifice on the body of Daksh Prajapati, and that's exactly how. So when Lord Shiva went there, he saw a goat that was tied there and was to be used for the fire sacrifice as an oblation, and he put the head of that goat on the body of Daksh Prajapati. Now, moral of the story is we see the positive side. If you blaspheme a devotee of the Lord, what are you supposed to do? What Mother Sati did. I mean, we cannot do that, but what she did at that time. For us, we should not hear the blasphemy of the Lord or his devotees, but walk away from that place. So anyway, she was Dakshayani, so she had mystic powers also, and she had all the right reasons to do what she was doing. And in those days, they could do that self-immolation and everything by inviting by meditating on the fire within the body. But moral of the story is we need to use, and she was very, very, very angry when she did that, right? When you're angry, that's when you're red hot. When you're very hot, that's when the fire within you is at its peak, so that's how all these things were happening. And for us to, what we need to learn is we should not hear the blasphemy of Lord or his devotees, no matter what. If you are not in a position to fight back or defend or argue, walk away. So for her, this was her way of expressing anger. And even though it was her own father, but she was fighting for the greatest Vaishnava, who is Lord Shiva. So be it Vaishnava or the Lord himself, blasphemy is not to be heard. We cannot hear the blasphemy of the Lord, not acceptable. So this is how the positive anger in the positive sense can be used. Now the negative aspect, from here we see what happened to Daksh Prajapati. He was angry at what? That Lord Shiva did not stand up and welcome him. Is that what a humble person is going to do? No, he was so puffed up. He wanted Lord Shiva to welcome him, to get up and bow down for him. But Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. So, in the position point of view, from the position point of view, Lord Shiva is much higher than Daksh Prajapati. But Daksh Prajapati was considering him to be his son-in-law, like an ordinary son-in-law. He was supposed to welcome. What happened? He got angry. What led to that? Him getting the head of a goat. So this is what happens when you use anger in a negative way. So we can move on to the next slide, please. Okay. Now another pastime that we can think of is Durvasa Muni. We know Durvasa Muni is very famous for being short-tempered. Okay, so he's short-tempered and he is very famous for cursing also, and giving boons also to devotees very quickly, So now what happened? You've heard the name of Ambrish Maharaj. He is a king. He a very, very, very devoted Vaishnav king. Okay. Now Durvasa Muni it so happens that he comes to see Ambrish Maharaj, Raja Ambrish. That was the time when he came, was a time of Dwadashi Paran time. Okay, Ambrish Maharaj was to break the fast with so he used to he used to do nirjal fast, so he was supposed to break the fast with water. Now the Vaishnava etiquette says that if you have a guest over, you're supposed to first feed them prasadam and then honor prasadam. Now when Durvasa Muni came, it was Dwadashi day and Ambrish Maharaj was, so there is a paran time, there's a time within, the time bracket within which you're supposed to break your fast. That was the time when, so there was a time bracket where Ambrish Maharaj was supposed to break the fast. So when he saw Durvasa Muni, he said, okay, my lord, you go take bath in the river, come back and we both will honor prasadam. Durvasa Muni agreed. Durvasa Muni went. He didn't come back for a long time. Now, as much time as he took, that was the time when the paran time was getting over. So he asked his Raj Rishis, Ambrish Maharaj, that what do I do? Because if I don't break my fast in that time bracket during the paran time, I don't get the merit of Ekadashi, Vrata. My Vrata goes waste. So because he was to break the fast with water, the ministers and the Raj Rishis and the Brahmanas advised him to take just one sip of water so that his fast is also broken. And at the same time, he's not disrespecting the guest by honoring prasadam in his absence. And they said, once you break the fast, and then Durvasa Muni will come and you both can honor prasadam. So Ambrish Maharaj thought that, yeah, this is perfect, Now, as soon as he put the water in his mouth, there comes Durvasa Muni. He saw him doing that and he got so upset. He didn't know what was happening, or he didn't ask him, or he didn't even try to get into the details of why was he drinking water. He just got so upset that you are disrespecting me by how? How was he disrespecting him? By honoring prasadam. And what was that prasadam? The offered water. water is considered, so this is another thing, that water is considered equivalent as having also something and not having also something. So it is okay to break the fast, but at the same time, he did not have anything as such. Now, this really upset him, and he quickly, as you can see in the picture, he created a demon and he wanted to punish Ambrish Maharaj. But lo behold, when this happened, obviously he being such a great Vaishnav, Lord sent his Sudarshan Chakra. And Sudarshan Chakra not only destroyed the demon, but he ran after Durvasa Muni. Ambrish Maharaj didn't say a word. He was just, with his folded hands, listening to every blasphemy, listening to everything that Durvasa Muni had to say. Now, this Sudarshan Chakra, to run away from Sudarshan Chakra, he went around the entire universe. In fact, he went up to the Lord himself. First, he went to all the demigods. They all said, we cannot help you. This is Lord Sudarshana. You'll have to go and seek his mercy. When he went up to the Lord said, I cannot do anything once I leave Sudarshan. The person you have committed the aparad against is the one who's supposed to forgive you. Even though I have released the Sudarshan, I cannot call Sudarshan back. It is only Ambrish Maharaj who can help you. So you need to go and seek forgiveness from Ambrish Maharaj. Durvasa Muni was obviously, his life was at stake. So he ran back. He came back to the Ambrish Maharaj. And when Ambrish Maharaj was, he was a humble soul. He didn't even take any offense. And he told the Durvasa Muni that please don't do all this. He was seeking forgiveness, and the Durvasa Muni said, no, you just say that you forgive me, otherwise Sudarshan is not going to go back. And he said, okay, I forgive you if that's what you want to hear, but there's nothing for me to forgive you about. And this is how the anger, so this is how Sudarshan went back, and Ambrish Maharaj saved life of the Durvasa Muni. So now see, what can this anger actually do? This anger it was only anger that led to Durvasa Muni being agitated for nothing. He lost his peace of mind and he created such a havoc. And what did it result in? Being followed by Sudarshan Chakra. All right, we can move on to the next slide. Now, this Narad Muni, now, this is one pastime that Srila Prabhupada talks about in many of his lectures, and we can read in his transcribed lectures also, that it's not only the anger part that we are talking about, not only applicable on human species, but in animal species also. So Narad Muni and snake. Now, once we know Narad Muni is an avadut, he travels all around the universe and he's everywhere. Now, once it so happened that Narad Muni was traveling and he happened to come to a forest. In that forest, he saw a snake. That snake was unnecessarily biting everyone. Narad Muni was not happy with it. He felt very compassionate towards him, thinking about his future, and he thought that I need to kind of show my mercy, give my mercy to him, because otherwise only Krishna knows what is going to happen to this snake with the way he's been killing people or biting people for no rhyme or reason. So, thinking like that, Narad Muni gave instructions to this snake. Now, snake happened to understand all this. And, Narad Muni is like a touchstone. Now, if Narad Muni's blessings are on the snake, then who can stop the snake from transforming his nature? So he actually took shelter of Narad Muni and became his initiated disciple. And Narad Muni instructed him not to bite unnecessarily. So he understood, okay, these are the instructions of my guru that I'm not supposed to bite. So he stopped biting. The kids, Narad Muni went back now on his way, Now the kids, especially the children, everybody else saw this transformation in the snake. Now they became more casual in his presence because they knew that he was not going to bite. And then some kids, out of playing pranks, they started throwing stones at the snake. They knew the snake is not going to bite. How did they know? Because they observed for a couple of days and they thought, okay, no harm. But because for all the harm that snake had done earlier, it was a payback time, and these kids, they were throwing stones at the snake, and the snake got really injured with the passage of time. Now once again Narad Muni happened to pass that route, and he saw his dear disciple snake injured so badly, and he told snake that he asked the snake, what happened, my dear disciple? And the snake said that it so happened that you asked me not to bite and I did not bite, but then these kids, they've started throwing stones at me, and this is how I got injured. So then then Narad Muni told snake that I asked you not to bite, but you can definitely show your hood to them, because then they will know that what they are doing is wrong. So sometimes you use your anger just to express your feelings. You may not necessarily harm the person. And then snake, he did not bite, but then when he was showing his fangs, they understood that he has the capability of biting, and unnecessarily they cannot harm him. So we can use our anger in this regard also. So there maybe, there are times when we are provoked to a certain situation, so we can retaliate to the extent when we are not harming anybody. So in that regard, we protect ourselves, and at the same time we make sure that we are not doing any harm. So anger can be used in the service of the Lord also. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse that says, Krodhat bhavati sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. And what does it mean? From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So if anger not used in the service of the Lord, it's not going to help us get out of the cycle of birth and death. In fact, there are 3 gateways to hell: lust, anger, and greed. So at this note, I would like to end, and if anybody has any questions, we can take. Anybody has any comments, any questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for the class. It was a very nice class on the negative and positive, on the negative and positive examples of anger. We like you had given the examples of Durvasa Muni on Ambarish Maharaj and many other ones like that. Thank you very much, Mataji. It was a good class.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question. Can I ask? So, it was first of all, Mataji, thank you for the class. It was very nice. I liked about how like how you explained the verse, like how we get down, like we should not do anger except if we are like trying to do it in Krishna consciousness and try to control it like the snake did. Mataji, my question is that like when Vishwamitra Muni when he was a king and when he came with his soldiers to Vashisht Muni's house, um, when Vashisht Muni told Vishwamitra Muni that Surabhi cow, I think name was Nandini, I think. So she gave all the food so quickly. So then he pulled Nandini unnecessarily and he became very angry about like when Vashisht Muni wasn't giving. So is that an example of unnecessary anger?
Yes, because there's so much of false ego. He was getting angry for his position, that I am the position of a king, and being a king, I should be holding the best of the things in the world. And Kamdhenu being a desire fulfilling cow, how can that be with a Brahmana and not with me when I am the king? So he was completely floored by his false ego, or in terms of his position of being a king. So his anger was not required, totally unnecessary. Even in fact, we know from the Shastras that the Brahmanas represent the head of the Lord. So the head is more important than the arms that are represented by the Kshatriyas, which is the king. So despite having that knowledge, because obviously these kshatriyas, they are trained by the brahmanas, they're not trained but guided by the brahmanas in the kingdom, he was aware. But then what was the need? Not required. The false ego was so strong.
Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the class was very nice.
Thank you. I am glad you like it.
Yeah, it was a good class. The class was nice. Bye.
All right, so we can end here, and then
Mataji, you're muted.
Okay.
Mataji, muted.
All right, so so much.
I have a question.
You have a question? Yes, tell me.
I said that next when Duvasa Muni, when Ambasha and Duvasa Muni pastime this pastime, then when they broke the fast.
I cannot understand you. Can you please say it a little slowly?
Bye, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So your question is that when did they break the fast?
Yes.
Oh, so that's because he broke the fast. That's what upset him. But he had already broken that water.
Bye.
All right, Krishna.
Bye.
Vanshi